whisper at her. "That's classified information, okay? Incredible, he looks about 25, maybe 27 at the absolute most." Helen watched Bliss crumble bacon into the bowl. "Oh, God," she said. "I don't believe it. He had a facelift." Bliss closed her eyes and leaned against the counter. "I shouldn't have told you. Please don't say anything," she murmured hopelessly. When Mitch and Ted came back from the sauna, they all had another toot, and Ted gave Helen the mirror to lick. He said he'd never seen 3 grams disappear so fast. Afterward, Helen served up the omelet while Ted tried to find something on TV. He kept flipping the dial until it drove everyone crazy, looking for Roadrunner cartoons. Then he gave up and tuned in on the last part of a movie about the Bataan Death March. They didn't watch it for very long, though, because Bliss started to cry and hyperventilate. "Come on, everyone," Mitch said. "Love circle." Ted and Mitch went over to Bliss and put their arms around her, while Helen watched them from the sofa, sipping espresso from a cup as blue and dainty as a robin's egg, the last of a set her grandmother had brought from the old country. Helen would have hugged Bliss too, but there wasn't really any point. Bliss pulled this stunt almost every time she got herself a noseful, and it just had to run its course. When Helen finished her espresso, she gathered the plates and carried them out to the kitchen. She scattered leftover toast into the courtyard below and watched the squirrels carry it away as she scoured the dishes and listened to the proceedings in the next room. This time it was Ted who talked Bliss down. "You're beautiful," he kept telling her. It was the same thing he always said to Helen when she felt depressed, and she was beginning to feel depressed right now. She needed more fuel, she decided. She ducked into the bedroom and did a couple of lines from Ted's private stash, which she discovered while searching for matches in the closet. Afterward, she looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were bright. They seemed lit from within. And that was how Helen felt, as if there were a column of cool white light pouring from her head to her feet. She put on a pair of sunglasses so nobody would notice and went back to the kitchen. Mitch was standing at the counter rolling a bone. "How's the birthday, girl?" he asked without looking up. "Ready for the next one," Helen said. "How about you?" "Hey, bring it on," Mitch answered. At that moment, Helen came close to letting him know she knew, but she held back. Mitch was good people, and so was Bliss. Helen didn't want to make trouble between them. All the same, Helen knew that someday she wasn't going to be able to stop herself from giving Mitch the business. It just had to happen. And Helen knew that Bliss knew. Still, she hadn't done it this morning and felt good about that. Mitch held up the joint. "Taste?" Helen shook her head. She glanced over her shoulder toward the living room. "What's the story on Bliss?" she asked. "All bummed out over World War II? Ted should have known that movie would set her off." Mitch picked a sliver of weed from his lower lip. "Her ex is threatening to move back to Boston, which means she won't get to see her kids except during the summer, and that's only if we can put together the scratch to fly them here and back. It's tough, really tough." "I guess," Helen said. She dried her hands and hung the towel on the refrigerator door. "Still, Bliss should have thought about that before she took a walk on them, right?" Mitch turned and started out of the kitchen. "Sorry," Helen called after him. "I wasn't thinking." "Yes, you were," Mitch said, and left her there. "Oh, hell," she thought. She decided she needed another line, but made no move to get it. Helen stood where she was, looking down at the pool through the window above the sink. The manager's Afghan dog was lapping water from the shallow end, legs braced in the trough that ran around the pool. The 2 British Airways stewardesses from down the hall were bathing their white bodies in the morning sunshine, both wearing blue swimsuits. The red-headed girl from upstairs was floating on an air mattress. Helen could see its long shadow gliding along the bottom of the pool, like something stalking her. Helen heard Ted say, "Jesus, Bliss, I can understand that. Everyone has those feelings. You can't always beat them down." Bliss answered him in a voice so soft that Helen gave up trying to hear. It was hardly more than a sigh. She poured herself a glass of Chablis and joined the others in the living room. They were all sitting cross-legged on the floor. Helen caught Mitch's eye and mouthed the word, "Sorry." He stared at her, then nodded. "I've done worse things than that," Ted was saying. "I bet Mitch has, too." "Plenty worse," Mitch said. "Worse than what?" Helen asked. "It's awful." Bliss looked down.